Breaking right now. The UK Supreme Court has just detonated a constitutional bomb that is tearing through Westminster like wildfire. In an unprecedented move never seen in modern British history, the highest court in the land has issued a direct order to Prime Minister Keir Starmer: resign immediately. This isn't a suggestion or recommendation. This is a judicial command sending shockwaves through every corridor of power in Britain. The reason? A staggering £124,000 financial scandal that has been hiding in plain sight, wrapped in layers of secrecy and what the court is calling deliberate obstruction of justice. Right now, Downing Street is in absolute chaos. Advisors are in panic mode. Labour MPs are turning their backs. The opposition is preparing for blood. And the British public is erupting in fury. What you are about to discover isn't just another political controversy. This is a constitutional earthquake threatening to bring down an entire government and expose corruption that reaches far deeper than anyone imagined. This morning, Britain woke up to a nightmare scenario that constitutional experts are calling the gravest crisis of governance in over half a century. The Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Dame Sue Carr, delivered a ruling so explosive that it has left the entire political establishment reeling in disbelief. The judgment didn't just criticize Starmer. It systematically dismantled his credibility, exposed his financial misconduct, and concluded with words no sitting Prime Minister has ever heard from Britain's highest court: immediate resignation is not only warranted, it is constitutionally necessary. Those words are now echoing through Parliament, through newsrooms, and through millions of British homes where ordinary people are demanding to know how their leader could be caught in such a catastrophic web of deception. The scandal centers on a property transaction that Starmer desperately tried to keep hidden from public scrutiny. According to court documents now made public, a family property in North London was sold under circumstances that raise severe questions about financial transparency and legal compliance. Here is where it gets truly damning. The real market value of that property, according to 3 separate independent valuations commissioned by the court, was £124,000 higher than what was officially reported. That is not a minor discrepancy or bookkeeping error. That is massive undervaluation that appears to have been deliberately concealed from parliamentary disclosure requirements. Every MP, especially the Prime Minister, is legally obligated to declare significant financial transactions. Starmer didn't. The money vanished from official records. The sale was buried under paperwork layers. But the property scandal is just the beginning. As investigators dug deeper into Starmer's financial affairs, they uncovered a pattern of undisclosed gifts, luxury perks, and suspicious donations, painting a picture of a man living far beyond his declared means while hiding wealth sources from public view. A £39,000 gift from a wealthy donor with offshore connections was never reported to parliamentary register. Luxury holidays, business-class flights on private charters, and what appeared to be consulting fees disguised as research grants have all emerged in leaked bank statements. The Supreme Court examined every piece of evidence, every transaction, every suspicious payment, and reached a conclusion, sending politicians into absolute panic. This was not accidental. This was systematic. This was deliberate concealment designed to avoid scrutiny and accountability. The court's language in the final judgment is absolutely scathing. They didn't use diplomatic legal jargon. They went for the throat. The ruling explicitly states that Starmer engaged in deliberate opacity, knowingly violated the ministerial code, and personally intervened to prevent full disclosure of his financial affairs. Even more shocking, the court found evidence suggesting Starmer instructed closest advisors to block internal reviews that would have exposed the financial anomalies. He knew, he covered it up, and he did everything possible to keep the British people in the dark. According to testimony from former staffers who spoke to investigators under protection, Starmer became increasingly paranoid about financial scrutiny in months leading up to the scandal breaking. Emails reviewed by the court show him demanding certain documents be kept off official systems. Messages reveal conversations about delaying disclosure requirements. Recorded phone calls capture him discussing strategies to minimize appearance of conflicts without actually addressing underlying problems. Inside Westminster, the reaction has been swift, brutal, and utterly unforgiving. Conservative MPs are openly calling for emergency vote of no confidence, and they have the numbers to make it happen. Reform UK, seizing the moment with ruthless efficiency, is demanding immediate general election. arguing the government has lost all legitimacy. Even within Labour's ranks, cracks are showing. Multiple shadow cabinet ministers speaking anonymously admit they're considering resignation if Starmer refuses to step down. One senior Labour figure told reporters in brutal honesty, "This is beyond damage control. This is career suicide for anyone who stands by him." The Parliamentary Labour Party is now divided into three factions: those who publicly defend Starmer while privately preparing escape plans, those openly calling for his resignation, and those gone completely silent, waiting to see which way the wind blows. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings are happening around the clock. Labour's election strategists are in absolute meltdown, scrambling to assess electoral damage. Internal polling data leaked to journalists reveals catastrophic collapse in public trust. Labour's lead in national polls has evaporated in less than a week. One leaked internal memo puts it bluntly: if Starmer is still in office by month's end, we're looking at electoral annihilation, making the Corbyn years look like minor setback. Outside Parliament, public response has been volcanic. Protests are erupting across every major British city. In London, tens of thousands descended on Parliament Square, blocking traffic, waving banners, chanting, "Resign now." In Manchester, protesters held mock trials, reenacting Supreme Court findings with actors presenting evidence to crowds responding with roars of approval. Similar scenes unfold in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Birmingham, and Bristol. Social media has exploded into firestorm of rage and disbelief. Hashtags like #Starmer scandal, #Supreme Court resign, and #corrupt PM are trending worldwide. Videos of ordinary Brits from NHS nurses to military veterans sharing fury are going viral. One video featuring a retired Yorkshire teacher has been viewed over 5 million times. She looks directly into camera. "We trusted him to be different. We believed he was honest, and he spat in our faces." The media, even outlets traditionally sympathetic to Labour, have turned. The Guardian published editorial headlined, "Trust is broken. Starmer must go." The BBC ran prime time special examining the scandal in forensic detail. Even Channel 4 News aired devastating investigation, uncovering additional undeclared financial connections, not part of the Supreme Court's original inquiry. And yet, through all this chaos, through the Supreme Court order, through public outrage, through party revolt, Starmer remains silent. No press conference, no statement, no apology. Just silence. His team issued brief, vague response claiming the Prime Minister is reviewing the ruling and considering options. But legal experts are unanimous: there are no options. The Supreme Court's order is binding. Constitutional lawyers are debating whether continued refusal could trigger emergency powers unused in modern times. Some suggest if Starmer refuses to obey the court's order, the monarch could be forced to intervene, dismissing the Prime Minister directly to preserve constitutional order. Britain is staring into constitutional abyss no one thought possible in the 21st century. As Starmer's silence stretches into days, investigators are uncovering layers of financial complexity suggesting the £124,000 property scandal is merely visible surface of something far more sinister. Behind scenes, forensic accountants working with the Supreme Court investigation have identified networks of transactions, shell companies, and offshore entities, painting disturbing pictures of systematic financial obscurity. Multiple sources within financial investigations unit confirm at least 3 offshore accounts linked through intermediary trust structures have connections tracing back to entities associated with Starmer's financial advisors. These accounts, registered in jurisdictions known for banking secrecy, allegedly received payments described as consultancy fees, legal advice retainers, and speaking engagement honorariums. But here is what makes this explosive. Several payments came from organizations with documented interests in influencing British government policy. International law firms seeking favorable trade agreements, property developers hoping for planning permission overhauls, and perhaps most damning, foreign business consortiums that later received lucrative government contracts under Starmer's administration. The Supreme Court investigation uncovered internal communications revealing how far Starmer went to keep arrangements hidden. Encrypted messaging between Starmer and closest financial advisors shows repeated discussions about minimizing paper trails, avoiding official documentation, ensuring certain transactions remained off parliamentary register. In one damning exchange, Starmer allegedly wrote, "We need to make sure this doesn't trigger automatic disclosure. Find a way to structure it differently. These aren't innocent mistakes. These are calculated moves by someone who knew exactly what they were doing and why it needed staying hidden." The corruption allegations go deeper into territory threatening not just Starmer's political career, but potentially his freedom. Investigators identified what they believe is deliberate scheme to suppress internal audits and silence whistleblowers who attempted raising concerns. At least 2 civil servants working in financial oversight positions were allegedly reassigned after asking questions about discrepancies in Starmer's declared income. One whistleblower, speaking anonymously, told investigators that when they raised concerns about unexplained wealth, they were called into meetings with senior officials who made clear their career would suffer if they continued pursuing the matter. The implications are staggering. If proven true, Starmer didn't just hide financial misconduct. He actively used government machinery to cover it up, intimidate those who might expose him, and corrupt systems designed to ensure transparency. The Supreme Court explicitly recommends law enforcement agencies launch formal investigations into potential violations of anti-corruption laws. Inside Downing Street, atmosphere has descended into pure chaos and paranoia. Staff members are lawyering up, afraid they'll be caught in expanding investigations. Senior advisors who once enjoyed unfettered access are keeping distance, worried about association with what many privately describe as sinking ship on fire. Political fallout is accelerating at breakneck speed. Labour MPs are openly discussing leadership challenges with at least 3 potential successors quietly preparing campaigns. Angela Rayner has conspicuously avoided defending the Prime Minister. Rachel Reeves has reportedly held private meetings with major donors reassuring them Labour can survive if it acts decisively. Wes Streeting has begun media appearances talking about returning to transparency values, carefully avoiding Starmer's name. Parliament is preparing unprecedented action. The Speaker has confirmed emergency debate on no confidence motion will be held within days, and numbers look catastrophic for Starmer. Conservative MPs are united. Reform UK will obviously vote against. Liberal Democrats announced support for the motion, and critically, backbench Labour MPs are signaling they may vote against their own Prime Minister or abstain. Political analysts estimate Starmer could lose by over 100 votes. Humiliation of historic proportions. If that happens, constitutional protocol demands immediate resignation and triggering of either leadership election or general election. Britain is hurtling toward political reckoning that could reshape the landscape for a generation. Outside Westminster, public anger has evolved from protests into organized nationwide demonstrations demanding complete overhaul of financial transparency requirements. Trade unions, traditionally Labour's most reliable supporters, are withdrawing endorsements. Unite Union released statement declaring they can no longer support Labour led by someone under such serious ethical clouds. Social media campaigns have gone beyond outrage into active organization. Crowdfunding efforts raised hundreds of thousands supporting legal challenges. Citizens groups are filing formal complaints with every regulatory body. A petition calling for Starmer's immediate resignation has gathered over 2 million signatures in less than a week, making it one of fastest growing political petitions in British history. International observers watch with shock and concern. Britain, long considered bastion of stability, displays all hallmarks of government in terminal decline. European leaders privately express alarm. The United States has reportedly sent senior officials to London for private briefings. Foreign investors are becoming nervous, reviewing exposure to British markets. And yet still, Starmer refuses to speak. His continued silence is interpreted not as strategic calculation, but desperate paralysis of a man who knows any statement will make things worse. Legal experts believe he is caught in impossible trap. If he admits wrongdoing, he opens himself to criminal prosecution. If he denies allegations, he contradicts Supreme Court findings. If he tries explaining transactions as legitimate, he'll reveal details about offshore arrangements that could expose even more serious violations. There is no good move left. Every path leads to destruction. He sits in Downing Street surrounded by lawyers, abandoned by allies, watching his legacy burn while the entire country demands answers. He cannot give without destroying himself completely. The Supreme Court has spoken. Parliament trembles. The people have rendered their verdict. What happens next will determine not just Starmer's fate, but the future of British democracy itself. Constitutional crisis is here. The reckoning has arrived, and there is nowhere left to hide.